Record. Hello, and welcome to my podcast, Gnosis, where we discuss how we know what we know. Today's guest is Brian. You'll have to help me pronounce your last name. I'm not very good at that.
Sure, it's Neitsch.
Neitsch.
It's kind of like it's a nice evening, night, and then a sneeze on the end. So Neitsch.
Neitsch. So this is my good friend, Brian Neitsch. We disagree about many things, but we enjoy lifting weights because the barbell is the no bullshit test of what you're about. So, we met in a gym. We lifted heavy things in accordance with our own abilities. He's continuing to do it. I currently have a hurt back, so I am not. And what I'm looking for, hold on, let me turn off the dinging bells of doom that my family wants to always do when I'm in the middle of something. All right, there we go. So why don't you tell us a little, what do you do, and where do you do it? How do you do it?
For a normal day job, I do I'm a software engineer.
Okay.
And work for a company in Chicago, R.R. Donnelley. Basically, we are IT. We're a manufacturing company, and we have our own IT segment, which we host and create and service all of our customers and their customers. So our customers would be companies that we own, people that work for us, presidents and sales reps and so on. And then their customers are people in the world like Pepsi and Coke and Pfizer and whoever else. So we have our own data center and all that stuff. So I'm part of the team that handles that. And
excellent.
Thank you. Also, that's the main thing I do. Also, we have our own podcast, John North and I, and I love to lift weights and have a wonderful family and serve the community, and I do that in the church and outside the church. I have my own nonprofit, so I just love people. I love people. That's really what it comes down to, because it's all about people, right? When it boils down to it, on the deathbed, nobody says, "Gosh, I wish I had that," barbell or that car. I wish I would have got that one car. No, it's like, I love my kids, I love my family, I love my husband and wife, whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I love all those things, but yet I'm obsessed with doing things completely away from all of them. So the dichotomy is real.
Yeah.
But I've raised my children. I have successfully parented in the American context. My children are living on their own, under their own steam currently, and we have a lovely friendship at this point. This is the best part of parenting, I think, is I no longer have to worry about disciplining or being worried about them. They're completely functional adults. All I have to do is love them and be there for them when they need me. So,
hey, congratulations. That's the goal.
Yeah.
I have 4.
Yeah.
And we have 4, and basically 2 of them are on their own and 2 of them still are in school. So
there you go. So do you homeschool?
No, I do not. No, the 2 youngest, one's a senior and then Nathan, and then the other one is 13-year-old Caitlin. She's in middle school.
And do any of them lift weights with you?
No, but they come in when the barbell is loaded. They often come in to the garage and they try to pick it up, or they try to push it over their head. But Caitlin is the one. She's the youngest. She's the one who likes all the physical activities the most. One of them is a golfer, really good golfer, shoots 70s, low 80s. One of them is a recording artist, and he's at Bible's college. And then the other one's a flight attendant. So none of them really kind of they're all of them are athletic. They super good swimmers, but they never really picked the barbell up. And I didn't either till later on in life. I was probably 29 when I found it, 30.
I was 38. So before
Oh
that,
wow.
yeah, I didn't even look at a barbell until I was 38. I mean, I'd done a bench press,
Hmm.
and
Same. Yeah.
but I had never really done lifting for the sake of lifting. I was always a skateboarder or calisthenic guy because the military made me do it.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it wasn't until later in life that I saw a photo of me in a behind the scenes thing for a physical fitness startup, and I saw my gut hanging way out over my belt buckle, and I decided that that was not what I wanted to look like because that's not who I was in my mind, you
Yeah.
know.
Awesome.
So that began my journey, and Shelby Jones met me at there and said, "Yeah, why don't you come by and work out? You can work out for free." And he regretted that later because I never paid.
Oh, Shelby. Yeah. Good friend of ours. Yeah. So, they sold the gym.
No, they
Yeah.
sold Jonesing for CrossFit.
They sold the gym. It's actually still Jonesing for CrossFit, as far as I know. And I still work with them. I help them. I mean, they still use the website,
Oh
that
yeah, yeah.
you started them on. Anyway, yeah. So they sold it to people to gym members, husband and wife, and they're still going there. Like Shelby still, I think he goes there once in a while, but Laura still goes there. So
That's
they're
cool.
all good friends. Yeah, good
I
people.
bet I bet they enjoy the gym a lot more now that they don't own it.
Oh, I'm sure. There's no stress. No stress.
Um,
Can
yeah.
imagine.
So
So I do still go there, but I
yeah,
I
that's
I, I
good.
live here more. Yeah.
Yeah, Corey. Well, let's not talk about non-playable characters in our podcast. But so
Oh,
I'm.
well, real quick, you brought him up. I'm about to sell him these right here.
Oh, really?
Some '04 Adidas, which I like them, but his broke apparently. So
I still have my original Audi Powers. There's no reason for me to go get new lifters until I wear these out.
yeah,
Um,
here they're never gonna wear out.
I mean, is there anything more satisfying than snatching body weight over your head? I don't think I've ever found that.
It's pretty. Look, just snatching a really really heavy weight overhead, no matter what it is so satisfying. It's like wow,
Yeah, yeah.
wow.
Well, I remember when I finally got just over body weight above my head, and
That's
I'm
awesome.
like going, I could lift my own self from the floor to above my head. That's cool.
That's great, man. I haven't done that
Um,
yet.
so one of the things that we often have dialogue about on our Instagram is social justice issues, or what people call social justice issues, wokeness,
Hmm.
those kinds of things. Um, Here recently, you reposted a speech that Lizzo gave under her. I don't even know what award she was winning. Um, so I was super curious, like what was the impetus to post something about Lizzo?
Yeah, let's see. So I don't know what award she was winning, but she gave a speech basically that was like, thank you for all voting for me or whatever. And then it was like, I'm oppressed, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
won and I'm awesome and I have all this stuff and fancy everything in life and I'm doing better than most people in the world. Yet, but I'm oppressed.
Right.
And yeah, maybe so then and that wasn't the actual reason I posted, but then I can't remember the phrase I put, but it was something else,
It
and
was
it wasn't.
laws. You had laws with
Oh, that's
question
what it
mark,
was. That's what it
but
was
someone
because
else had written up like, how can someone who makes millions of dollars talk about oppression while they're receiving an award?
so that's not the reason I posted that phrase, and even though it was probably on there, that's I kind of agree with that. But what she said was, which I didn't agree with at all, was let's get rid of these oppressive laws that we are all under. Assuming as she was talking about, Black people or minorities in general, maybe. And so I was like, I agree with that, but what laws is she talking about? Like, there are no laws that are oppressing her over me or some other white, quote unquote, white person, or less dark white skin female. There's no such thing as a white person. Anyways, you know what I'm saying? So my point was, where are these laws? I want to know. And if there are those laws, let's get rid of them. Now, if we want to talk about, who, if someone feels oppressed or not, and if they make millions of dollars and they're super famous and they're not oppressed, does a cop look at them? Well, sure. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe their community has very bad rap in certain areas, so they get judged more than sure. That's possible, and that probably happens a lot. But this individual isn't oppressed, and her message isn't I'm oppressed. Her message shouldn't be I'm oppressed and let's get out of this thing. It's we can all make it. Let's stay together. Let's hand in hand, and we can all get it through this. If you are oppressed as a person, right, in my community or whatever community you're in, there's ways out. And so that's the underlying feeling I have when I see that. But the reason I reposted it to answer your question was, where are the laws? You can't say that as a public person just winning an award. Millions of people are going to hear you and lie, in my opinion, because there are no laws that look at one person versus another and say, you get the loan, you don't, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, there's laws that say, as a Black person, you get a loan, you get preferences, you get the job, whereas another person, quote unquote, me as a white guy, I don't get it, or she doesn't get it, or someone else. So I just want to know about the laws. So that was my main thing. Let's just, call it a spade, wherever that is.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess I can understand both her perspective, because she is a woman of weight, and she is also a Black woman, and so she probably had to go through some shit, pardon my language, to get where she's at. Like, no one was going around, what we need? An overweight Black woman to be top of the charts. I'm pretty sure no one had a quota for that. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, maybe nowadays. I mean, nowadays there's this whole body thing.
Well,
but you're right.
Body positivity. I maybe, but Lizzo's old enough that I'm sure that 10 years ago she was probably just as talented as she is now, and maybe didn't get the shots that she has recently had. And just because some group gets the shot, or one individual gets the shot, does not mean that the rule is unproven. I mean, there's always been exceptions to rules, right? That's where the old adage, the exception proves the rule.
But what? Yeah, agreed. But let me ask you this: what rule are you referring to?
Well, the unwritten rules, right? Because like when the Constitution was originally written, it said all men are created equal, and then slaves were considered 3/5, right?
But we got rid of that.
Well, if we just stopped at all men are created equal, we wouldn't need to get rid of anything.
But that's beside the point. We got rid of it, as many countries never did, and there's still slavery going on. In fact, there's probably more slaves now than there ever was. Africa alone has many slaves. That's just one country. There's a lot of white areas, quote unquote white. I hate that term because it's tribalism, in my opinion. But when you have a lot of like European, Eastern European, and other countries that aren't looking at race for the most part. They look at classes of people, like financial classes. It's very classist, not really racist. It's more classist in the world. And But they never got rid of that. We as the United States have done that. I think it's a celebration that we should be pushing out there. Look, now Lizzo and whoever else, female, male, even any kind of identification that you want to identify you as whether you people believe in that or not, you are now able to come out of some closet, whatever that might be, black, white, female, homosexual, gay, whatever, and now you can succeed. So I think that's a positive thing in the United States, and I think we celebrate that. What we
do you think we all have the same shot at succeeding? I mean, I know a lot of I agree with you. I think we should retire the term white and black. But you know, the idea of whiteness, I think it needs to be more inclusive, because I think there was an understanding of blackness, you know, way back when, and blackness was anyone that wasn't a part of the property owning class, right? So if you were Italian, you were probably, you know, when I lived in South Jersey, Italians didn't consider themselves white. If
Yeah,
you
but they didn't consider themselves black either. Neither, yeah.
No, but I mean, Irish were considered not white.
Yeah, but if you go back, look at the culture though. It's hard to agree with that, Trinity, because the culture is black, Irish, and you know, Irish and Scott, and those people, you know, up in the you know, the New York area and that whole area of the United States, New England area. You know, they were harsh. They were harsh to black people in that time. They were they called them curse words. You know, they looked at them as servants. So you can't. It's hard to say that those people are included in that quote minority or blackness.
Well, I
Mentality.
mean, the Irish were the same way, though. It was only after that they became involved in the police department
Right.
and started gaining some traction in political class that they transitioned out of that black status. I would argue that many Irish probably feel the British treat them as the black people of Europe, which, you know, seems
So
like a weird statement as an
so
American.
you bring, yeah, well, it's, you bring that up. That's a great point. It shows to me that it's underlying race is not you know, color essentially is not the underlying push for racism, right? It's tribal thinking. You
Hmm.
know, I'm better than you because my tribe is richer, or my tribe has the best fishing equipment, or my tribe has, we wear the clothes, or we have the power and the influence, right? So like you, I guarantee you that, and I'm not putting race the hatred down that came in the United States when the Africans brought over black people and sold them to the United States. Terrible, awful, evil.
Uh-huh.
But I'm saying is that the driver is not race, it's hate. I hate them because I'm going to use them. And
Right.
anybody, and like the Irish were hated and they were used because they were weird to the people here already. They didn't talk the same. They had a weird slang according to the people already here. So what did we do?
Well, mostly
We
it was they were poor, and so they were brought over here as indentured servants, or they were
right,
being
right.
refugeed over here. And at the time, the United States was welcoming people in because we needed population to be able to
Right.
manifest destiny across the continent.
Mhm.
But that's kind of the history. I mean, the South, you know, I'm always curious at what the definition of black was in the South during that time. I mean, because is it anyone from the African continent? I mean, we went to war on the Barbary Coast because of pirates,
Mm.
and you know, people were often trafficked as, you know, to pay a debt, or they were conscripted into navies or conscripted onto ships against their will. Um, you know, those kinds of things did
Yeah.
occur. So I wonder, you know, what are the definitions of these racial groups?
Hmm.
Which, you know, what I was always taught is that there's no such thing as race, that race is a man-made construct, that there's only one race, the human race, you know. You could argue Neanderthals versus Homo sapiens sapiens, you know, and you could go down that rabbit hole. But as far as like as humans, human beings, Homo sapiens sapien, we are all the same. Otherwise, you would make
Yeah.
like, you know, liger like mules that can't reproduce if they mix blood, right? I
Hmm.
mean,
We are. I mean, we all have the same blood, right? We have a few different variations in our DNA, but that's why when if you take let's say the whitest white person, you know, which I hate that phrase, but you take the blackest black person or the most Mexican person, all the traits, the dark skin, dark hair, whatever you deem as the trait of, let's say, someone from Africa or someone from South America, and then someone from, like, you know, Viking North.
mhm.
You put them together, and the same genes are in each person, so they're going to start changing based on how many times people reproduce. So it's clear we're all the same, right? And there's no difference except the way we look and some of our culture. And I agree with you. Yeah, we are one race. You know, I think we do have different nations. You know, we have different cultures,
Mhm.
but that's why it's all about hatred, uh, and thinking. We create the hatred in us, in my opinion. I
Mhm.
don't look at if I look at another person and I automatically say I'm probably better than them because of the way they look or
Mhm.
the way they talk or how much money they have, I'm automatically pushing hate out that I see in me, right? They're not less of a person just because they're standing there.
Mhm.
They're not less of a person because they have $500 less than me, or how they, you know, how they say the word tomato versus I say tomato or whatever. It's the originating person who's pushing out the hate. Yeah,
But
period.
what if you've received hate? I mean, I've when I was growing up, I was called all kinds of
Mhm.
names. You know, there was a lot of I got in a lot of fist fights over things. You know, normally it was one me and more of them.
Yep.
But you know, that was definitely a factor going on. So what about people that are constantly receiving hate? Are they just imagining these things? Is there no such thing
No.
as racism?
Yeah, I don't think they're imagining these things at all. Like that's of course there's racism in the sense that I hate someone or someone hates me, right? Because I look different or they want to belittle me. That's definitely around. I don't believe that our system is set up as necessarily racist or hateful anymore, right? You know, racist. Now, it maybe there are parts here and there that have a, like you said, the unspoken
Hmm.
racism, like the groups of people running things. But I think in the U.S. the system's not in place. I think our country is overall less racist and hateful to each other than ever before. But it still happens. You still have pockets of people that are awful, and this is on in every community. You
Hmm.
have, you know, there you have black guy that walks down the street in a certain city in the United States, and he might get hateful comments. You're this and you're
Or
that, you
murdered.
know, or murdered. But the same thing goes in other parts of the U.S. Or a white guy like myself walks down the street in a certain area of town, he could get murdered as well just for being there. I mean, it's on social media. It happens. People just walk by. Same thing with political. Look what happened in Oregon, where that they said we're going to kill that MAGA Trump guy, and they shot him in the head. So
Right.
that wasn't a racist thing. That was the same as racism, but it was hate driven. It was just, you know, classist. I'm not a Trump guy. I'm a Biden liberal or whatever, and so I'm going to kill the Trump guy. So it all boils down to the same thing. That's my point. Racism is manufactured to the fact that we only look at race, but that's just one characteristic of of real hate. That's all it really is. And so is it gone? No, but it's been pushed down extremely more than ever before. That's what.
Now, is that the case? Is the reason why it's pushed down more than ever is because people have spoken up about the issue? I mean, maybe the reason why we are possibly less racist is because we talk about it enough that people are aware of it, they're conscious of it. You know, and if you don't, it's kind of what's the old political philosophy? Both parties practice it. You know, if the party that's in power is doing something good, complain about it. If the party in power is doing something bad, shout about it. You know, it's like even if it's the same thing you're planning on doing. You know, Mitt Romney's medical plan is the one that Obama put into action, but somehow Obama's medical plan is the one everybody complains about. You know, but Mitt Romney's was the foundational component of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's. I mean, you make up a good point. You know, I don't know. I don't know the real reason other than we are bringing things to light.
And if racism isn't at play, then why was Obama's citizenship questioned? Why was that even a talking point? Like you wouldn't do if Arnold Schwarzenegger was running for government and he had not been an immigrant and we didn't know that, like if that wasn't part of his story, would we have questioned Arnold Schwarzenegger's right to be president because we needed to see his birth certificate? I don't think, has an American president ever had to show their birth certificate before to take office? I don't even think that is a thing until Obama.
Well, I think you're making it bigger than it was. He never did show, by the way.
Well, right? Why should he?
Never showed. Exactly.
And actually did publish his Hawaii birth certificate. And what difference does it make anyways? I didn't even have a birth certificate until I was 13 because the hospital that I was born at had burned down.
So, are you even a citizen? I was kidding. So
well, I don't know. I was born to two citizens. So the way the rules say, if you even have one citizen, it doesn't matter where you're born, you're a U.S. citizen. So
I'm not questioning you. I'm just joking. Trump brought that up. That's it. Who cares? Like Trump, look, I think Trump did a lot of great things. I think he did a lot of stupid things. You know, I think that was one of them. Questioning whether Barack Obama was a legal citizen or not. I mean, there's a lot of weird innuendos about his life, Barack Obama's life. Okay, I don't care. A lot of weird innuendos about my life that people could see, and so I think it was a stupid angle to play in the political world. You know, I think Trump brought it up trying to create something that maybe was there, maybe wasn't there, and then he pushed pretty hard on it. You know, and it's I mean, the guy was, for the most part, he's been in the United States. If let's say he wasn't a U.S. citizen for whatever, and he faked his way in, good on him, man. He did it. You know, so I don't know what to say. That he got a certificate and he's a U.S. citizen according to the law. So that's all that matters, really. I think it was a stupid play by Trump.
But that was still something that they cried. They obviously felt that had some play involved in it, and I'm wondering what the factor was that might have put that even in question.
Yeah, I don't think it was race. I think personally it was just to disqualify him. I don't think that race may have had a play in the Barack Obama presidency. Clearly, the United States voted for him, right? And so,
well, unless that election was also fake.
No, I don't think it was.
Oh. Well, I'm having trouble keeping track of, because Hillary said the results of 2016 were fake, and then Trump said the results of 2020 were fake. So if we
you're not wrong. It's crazy.
If we keep having these fake elections, I'm wondering when are we just going to declare kings?
Look, what a weird moment we're in right now, huh? Like literally. And here's the weird part: like all these lawsuits in like Arizona, and now they're all getting won. Like there's all this evidence here. Even here at the San Antonio, you had all this. You had several people go to prison for ballot manipulation. It's terrible.
I
And
have
so,
not seen any of that news, but then again, I've
yeah, it's
also
all
been
out there.
limiting the amount of news. Well, I will do my research, as they say, but I
I'm
would
not,
argue
yeah,
that
go ahead.
there's no such thing. The elections take the way they're going to go because that's the way they're going to go. Do you think Donald Trump actually expected to win in 2016?
Yes.
I don't.
You think he was, you don't think thought he was going to win?
No, I think what happened was, and I have some inside information on some things,
Dun, dun, dun.
that Hillary was the agreed to candidate,
Mm-hmm.
that there was an appetite for another blockbuster identity candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the worst possible candidate on the Republican side was chosen to receive support.
Mm. So what I'm hearing is you believe that Trump really wasn't a full-fledged candidate, but he happened into the presidency and then
No,
just kind of
no.
took off with it.
I think he became a full-fledged candidate because he was encouraged to. He had always been a supporter of the Democratic Party up until when he was running for Republican.
Right.
He was probably internally encouraged because the field of Republican candidates not only were weak, but were intellectually incapable of the moment that they were in. I don't know, or emotionally incapable of stirring some kind of response in the American public. I mean, I don't. It's the same thing that the Democratic Party faced with Dukakis, and
Mhm.
you know, and a couple of their characters that they ran. It wasn't until Bill ran that they even had a shot at the presidency, and probably because I voted for Ross Perot is why they won the candidacy at that in that year.
I love that guy. Look, he was the first guy. That was the first election where I really paid attention.
Was that
I
the first
just
election you
started
could
to.
vote? President was?
Yeah, let's see. What was I 18? I was 18 in 05, right? No,
Mm-hmm.
2000, 96, 97, 97. I was 18. I was, yeah, 97.
Oh, so you're a little bit younger than me. I
Yeah, I'm
was,
45.
yeah. So you're 3 years younger. It's not that much younger. Which
90.
congratulations, you are now eligible to run for president. Please let me
Thank
know
you.
when your candidacy starts.
Well, I am in that today, since you got me on. I am in.
This is when you're going to announce. You know,
Exactly.
I'm carefully considering all my options, as they say. But
Yeah.
you know, can you really tell me what a real policy difference is between one presidency and another over the years?
Well, there's definitely the abortion policies. I think I think Bush, which I'm not a huge fan of after the fact. George W. Bush, he
But
was
you,
anti-abortion,
uh-huh.
right?
Well, because it was safely enshrined by the court, so he could be
Right.
anti-abortion.
That's right. I that's a good question about what policies are different from president to president. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like, do you really see that much of a difference between a George Bush presidency, other than style, and an Obama presidency?
Um, there's probably not a lot. I do believe I think there are some nuances, obviously, like
Sure.
the wars, the war overseas, foreign policy. One is really pro, let's say, um, really helping our past and present allies. Some are less likely to support them, but not a lot. There's really not a lot of that changes, other than a lot of underlying things that we don't see. I'm pretty sure. I do believe that the presidents. I know this is a little conspiracy theory, but I do believe, like you said, they're chosen. they're chosen and then by a group of elites. I don't have the answers. I don't know who those
Well,
people are
I don't think
necessarily.
that's all that conspiratorial, because what it takes is a lot of money to run for president, and who has a lot of money? The elites
Right.
that have money.
The elites. Yeah, the very few, the and then you have these crazy, these weird groups that meet, from year to year, build a burger and all these other things that happen. It's just it's
I'm
almost like,
sorry, Bilderberger?
yeah, there's the Bilderberg group, not burger, Bilderberg group.
Oh, what's
The
Bilderberg group?
Bilderberg. It's a group of, like, if you look it up, there's a place in there's a place every year. The Bilderberg group meets in like a special location, and they invite all like world leaders, and Bill Gates type people, a few of high-end actors.
Sounds like Davos.
Yeah, Davos, exactly. And this is Klaus Schwab runs that thing, You look, and there's Bohemian Grove is another weird scenario where, like, presidents, and we're talking about, like, Nixon is on tape there with video, and
Mm-hmm.
with former presidents, with foreign leaders who were like, quote, our enemies and not our enemies. So it's just like, it's like, what is this? This is like what's that? Austin Powers 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes it feels like that.
Hmm.
I don't know if it is, but
I would say we probably live more in an idiocracy framing at this point. Um,
yeah,
although Biden's shaping up to be a fairly good administrator, or at least the team that is behind them seems to be like they might be getting their heads out of their butts.
Well, what do you consider good? What has he done that you would say that's good? He's
Oh, that's a
administrating
great
very
question.
well.
Uh,
Because
Well,
I feel I could say a lot of things that say I think he's a terrible representation of administrating power or leadership. But go ahead, give me
well,
at least one thing.
well. First, let me say, let me give you a positive Trump thing, and
Mm,
then you give me a positive Biden thing. Does that
okay,
work? Can we play that game?
let's
Well,
try it.
I mean, because the reality is, if you're an objective person,
Yeah,
then you should be able to see the positives and the negatives, regardless of your political opinion. So
totally with you.
let's test this theory out. So Project Warp Speed, where Trump cut all the red tape to make sure that the pandemic vaccine was developed as quickly as possible and distributed as widely as possible.
Well, I agree with you that if
Which is
in the in
strange, because he talked
eh,
against his own success often,
yeah,
because he wanted to encourage the base. But
mhm,
he, if the president is responsible for such things, that's definitely squarely on his shoulders.
mhm.
He pushed the mRNA vaccine out. He made sure everybody got it. He actually got the vaccine himself. So,
Mhm.
I'm curious, what would you say is a positive thing that Biden's done?
Let's see. A positive thing that Joe Biden's administration has done, um, pulling out of Afghanistan, not the way he did it, but that is a positive thing. I think it
Um,
was
can you identify a war where we exited that wasn't messy except for World War II?
no, I mean, not really. I don't really have that knowledge. I
Yeah, that's
the
because there is none. Standard military protocol is to leave the equipment behind. It's considered a write-off. Why would you transport it back? The only thing you need to bring back are the men and whatever else. Normally, what you do is you scuttle the equipment that you're leaving behind, if you care to, if that's not negotiated by
Mhm,
the party you're leaving in power. But in general, what you do is you remove components that can only be procured through you,
well, I'm
um,
trying to give you a
and you leave
positive
the body.
here.
Right. No. So what I'm saying is that I would agree. Trump talked about getting us out of Afghanistan, but Biden delivered it.
Mhm. Yeah, I'll give you that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll give you I'll
yeah.
give you another Trump positive. Um, Trump was the first straightforwardly socialist president.
You think so? How so?
Who was the first president that ever inspired the direct distribution of checks to the majority of the American public?
I mean, that we've been getting that for a while.
Not in the way we got a just a straight emergency check out
Yeah,
of yeah, and he made it very clear. He made sure he put his name on the check. He held up the distribution so it could have his signature on it.
yeah. I 100% disagree with his decision there, but I see that I could see how that's a positive. Like you see, I don't think we should have got checks.
Oh, okay. But he agreed initially with the shutdown of the economy until it became politically expedient for him to deny that is a valuable thing. Yeah, I mean, it was his administration. He was in charge, right?
Absolutely, he was in
Yeah,
charge.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had to make those
So
decisions.
can you think of another thing that Biden might have done well?
Mm, nope. I don't really. I haven't really uh been critiquing him as of late.
Why not?
I think we're back. Are we back?
Yeah, we're back. Sorry about
Okay.
that. I
Uh,
was trying to put up my phone on do not disturb and I hit airplane mode. So uh,
uh,
I'll I'll collapse that.
I mean, one thing only thing I could think of is he is he did try to push domestic manufacturing. Like he's trying to get our to restore our economy or bring our economy up, right? Since when we shut things down. So I that's I guess that's one positive thing that Biden is trying to do or has been doing, right?
Yeah, and he's talking about
Incentivize.
bringing chip manufacturing back to the United States instead of leaving it over in Taiwan.
Yeah, I think which is a great thing. Anytime we can do manufacturing here and do work here, absolutely. Yeah.
Um, I know of a number of business people that are very excited about the government handouts that they're going to receive if they file for them. A lot of corporate welfare has been going out. That also happened under Trump, but it was touted as investment. But corporate welfare is corporate welfare. Um,
Yeah, they need it. Not.
yeah, I would say. Do you think inflation is the fault of people having so much extra cash laying around, or is it the fault of corporations not of doing strange things because of quantitative easing?
Governmental money mismanagement, not corporations. When you have government that is printing loads of cash and giving trillions out to Ukraine and so on, that's going to create an inflation scenario. I'm
Mm,
not the one to say it. These are
yeah.
proven
Except for
economists.
Ukraine is a lend-lease scenario, which puts that country in debt to us, so that in the future they have to pay us back for those things that we already have laying around that are expendables. So
But that doesn't mean the
when someone says I'm giving $1 trillion in aid and they're shipping weapons
yeah.
abroad, that is not money, that is material. And then what they're doing is they're putting a valuation on the material they're shipping. But these are things that are designed to go boom. So they were already losses when you made them. We had them sitting in a warehouse.
But if that's the case, then that's fine. But I still don't believe that corporations drive inflation.
So
at
when
all.
corporations got their pandemic funds under the Trump administration to help offset not being able to keep their employees busy, and then they waited 6 months and then fired their employees, but they gave a bunch of stock buybacks. That's not corporate mismanagement of funds?
Well, corporate. I didn't. Those are multiple different questions. We should think about one at a
No,
time.
they're all causality. They got funding support so they could keep employees that weren't performing a function.
No.
What they did is they cut them.
Example. Mm-hmm.
So they kept
what
the
you're
money.
saying. No, what you're saying is fine. I totally agree that mismanagement of corporate funds is terrible, but that is not going to. Here's an example of inflation. When you take and you go from one of the leaders in the world to digging and producing oil from your own land and shutting it all down, and that is a huge producer of inflation. The gas prices were not caused by Putin.
We ship our oil overseas because light crude's easier to manufacture into gasoline, and so it takes a less advanced plant to turn that from oil to gas. And what we do is we take things like tar sands and heavier processed materials and turn that into gas. So even if we cut our own production, it's not oil that goes into the U.S. economy. That's oil that we sell outside the U.S. economy.
There's no way that we sell all of our produced or our gathered oil from everywhere outside the United States.
There's at least five refineries that were shut down and they weren't turned back on that we could have been producing oil out of. So why is, if it was all on us shutting down oil production, which I don't see how we have, there's more land leases available now. Biden says people are choosing not to activate them. Now, I don't know. Is he lying?
I don't believe that. Absolutely. I don't believe that at all.
Well, that's an easily verifiable fact, right?
Let me
we
just
could go
say
on
this.
a website and look it up.
Yeah, his 100 days, he put in so many regulations and shut down so many things. And look at the gas price. I'm just using that as an overall example.
Right.
What happens when
the economy started heating up after we came out of a pandemic and we had a broken supply chain because of globalization, which,
that doesn't cause inflation.
Broken supply chains, constriction of supply doesn't cause inflation.
Yeah, but everything came back together, right? That's not what Biden did. He literally, his policies literally are part of the issue. And I'll just stay on the oil thing. That the broken supply chain is not the reason that we're paying, somebody's paying $6.55 for a gallon of diesel.
Are we still paying that much?
Yes, we
are. How much are we paying? Because gas prices are down almost a full dollar.
Maybe it's $5.83 now. I think this morning, my buddy, Marco Polo, a bunch of guys around the U.S. a lot. I think $5.83 is the latest gas diesel gallon. And that's good if inflation is coming down, right? Or hopefully. But that is direct correlation, or that's directly impacted. Our gas prices directly impacted, not at all by the lies of the Putin war in Ukraine.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And so where does it come from? It doesn't come from the pandemic.
Big a lie is saying that Iraq was involved in 9/11.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? You're conflating the two issues. The reason why we wanted to go into Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11 or weapons of mass destruction. Those were pretenses.
Yeah. No, I know. Hussein was evil, but that's not that. I agree with you. Like
we don't care if you're evil as long as you're doing what we ask you to, right? You know what I mean? Like that's not the United States' purview. We don't really care about moral leadership. All we care about is stability in foreign countries until their stability becomes unimportant to us.
Right. Yeah. Well, if it's going to affect us, then we're going to do something about it.
Or when we want to do something about things, we invent how it affects us.
Yeah, yeah, and then we get the British to say yes, yes, our intelligence is right online with yours.
I
That's
mean,
it. Let's
what
talk
I
about
would
them. That's a
argue.
whole. Go ahead.
Yeah, oh yeah, the British. But I don't live in Britain. The Queen makes no difference in my life, or the King, or
Right.
whoever else they decide to have constitutionally as a welfare state recipient. Um,
Yeah, I'm with you.
but uh, I would say that Russia, I would say that my estimation of Biden improved. Now, do I think that we probably pushed the issue? Do I think we antagonized Putin a little bit? Did we hang our chin out in front so that he would take a swing? Yeah. But I also think that Putin made choices for Putin's sake. And
Yeah,
what we're seeing is maybe what we understood before we hung our chin out there, that Putin's kind of a paper tiger. Now, I think we shouldn't be fucking around with a nuclear power. I just don't.
me
That's just,
neither.
I don't think we should be antagonizing people with nuclear weapons. But when you figure out where the physical nuclear weapons are in Russia to strike the United States, and then you're seeing the lackluster performance of the Soviet era methodology of warfighting, one has to question whether or not their efficacy in anything is what we expect. I mean, their economy seems to be doing way better than we expect because they're a closed loop.
Yeah. Well, it did tank, but it's back to decent uh levels. I think though, like they're on the run. I read this morning, last night, yesterday or this morning, Russia's on the run now. You know,
Well, I mean, retreating
right?
can be
Retreating to
done.
the border.
Yeah, you can regroup and then reattack.
Hmm.
So that you sucker your opponent towards you, or sometimes you're actually routed and you have to retreat past a point of defense. So it's too early to tell, and that's
Hmm.
always the problem in war is that you don't really know. But the USSR pretended to be completely capable right up until the point that they collapsed. So who
Yeah,
knows if the Russian economy is actually doing all that well.
yeah. I don't know. I don't follow it deeply. You know, I know. I believe Putin started that for economic sake. He wanted to take a lot of the resources there in from the northern Ukraine area, and has zero ethics. He's an evil dictator, in my opinion, and has no problem killing anyone in his way. But yeah, I just don't know. I don't feel like they're gonna be bankrupt because of this war, right? I don't feel like they're gonna be bankrupt, but I don't see him giving in. I think he's too prideful of a leader to stop until either he gets what he wants or they come with some kind of handshake. And I don't know when that's gonna happen. It needs to stop though. It's ridiculous.
I would agree. I mean, personally, where I sit is I would rather have peace, but one has to
Yeah.
question whether or not the government thinks that Russia will how much resources Russia will continue to pour in the Ukraine because war costs an economy. Like
Hmm. Yep.
we've got years and years and years and years and years of history of what the cost of war is if you don't win. The United States is kind of an exception. We didn't win the Iraq War, but Halliburton made a lot of money. Um,
Wait. You don't remember USS whatever and
oh
George
yeah,
Bush's sign?
we declared victory and then spent 18 more years there. Yeah, that's right. I forgot.
That was just we were just helping him rebuild. Halliburton, you know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
the Marshall Plan. If it didn't work out, you know. By the way, uh, how much do you know about the Marshall Plan and the Great Deal of your post-war?
zero.
Really?
Yeah. The
I
Marshall
highly
Plan.
recommend that you study the Marshall Plan because we basically finance both Japan and Europe's recovery. They only recently paid off their debt.
Wow. Yeah, I do know that we go in a lot of times and we we help rebuild, and but I don't know anything about it really. The Marshall Plan. I'm just seeing this now. European Recovery Program
Mm-hmm.
and the aid to Western Europe.
Basically, we decided that a stable Europe would be more advantageous to us. So we encouraged the formation of the Eurozone as a way to tie the French and German economies together and allow Europe to kind of federate a little bit so that it would have its more of a unifying character instead of so many separate identities within Europe. That's one of the things we encourage. Europe does whatever Europe wants to do, but we definitely encourage that behavior in Europe.
You know what? It's funny how I know the United States is not perfect, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
What you just said was it's controlling the area or creating a system that we like. But, it's the more you dig into events that have happened in the last, gosh, 500 years or less,
Mm-hmm.
let's say 250, 300 years, you makes you realize like that what we were talking about earlier, the idiocracy, idea is so relevant. And it's because if you go down the line from the history of the world, right? You have the Medes and the Persians and Rome, and you have these superpowers who are like creating their own circles and bubbles and so on. And then along comes the United States, and changes a little bit of how things go. Yet I think that world domination leadership is kind of like wiggling its way into us. And like I said, we're not perfect. Nobody is.
Right.
That's why I said celebrate what we've done, abolishing slavery and pushing forward to equality of men, not equality of outcome, because I don't believe in that. That's impossible. But equality of opportunity for all people, and that's what our goal is, right? In my opinion, or should be our goal. And I think that's a great thing. And I think that the oligarchy is trying to. Go ahead.
I think that's incredibly interesting that you feel that we've abolished slavery in the United States when we have a population of undocumented bodies that are employed by corporations to do jobs.
Mm-hmm.
However, they don't have the same rights as citizenship and don't have the same pricing power for their labor. So,
well, yeah, but hold on. Your definition of slavery, though, and mine are different. I wouldn't call them slaves. They have every right to take their 2 feet and walk to wherever they want to walk. Now, that doesn't mean go back to your country. They don't have to. So many of them have come over illegally in their own hopes that they will take in the United States and they'll win. And they'll have the American dream happen, which is you be successful and you create your family and you do what you want. That I am for helping undocumented or immigrants, right? Illegal aliens is I guess the technical word, but yeah, sure, whatever you
non-citizen residents. I would call them non-citizen residents.
I'm for helping them because obviously most of them have been here for years and years, and I have many friends being in San Antonio who are in that position, right? I'm not against them, but I am against calling them slaves because they're not. 100% they're not.
All right, so I think that's worth discussing. If you are someone that is in a group that the president of the United States referred to as criminals and rapists, and you have no rights to demand certain things, you do receive a paycheck. I worked for a company that primarily had employed a bunch of illegals when I lived in Dallas. They used to wash napkins for first class airplanes. I happen to be the company that I worked for had purchased the business from the previous owners. And so when they purchased the business, they just assumed the superstructure that they had there. What I saw when I worked there is they didn't get paid very much. And they were paid for their overtime work with chicken. They would go, the supervisor would go pick up KFC chicken and go, here you go, here's some food.
Okay.
You know, and then as a reward, once we came in there and we saw what was going on, and we of course had to make everything legal, all those people got fired because they were illegal. And then we had to hire legal employees, right? So the people that were doing that job lost on two levels. One, they were never actually paid appropriately, and the purchasing corporation that bought them was seeing a much lower P&L because those employees weren't actually being paid the labor standard at the time. So they were lied to because these undocumented workers. And then the undocumented workers lost once a legitimate corporation came into play and had to pay the correct rates, pay overtime, follow labor laws, and so forth. So it doesn't sound like they really had that much choice in what they were doing, because if you're illegal, you could be deported, right?
Well, they could have got another job. They could have gone somewhere else. That's a choice. That's a big choice. Look, I totally get what you're saying. Like, be manipulating workers based on their citizenship status is, I don't believe, okay at all. But that doesn't qualify them to be deemed a slave. A slave is someone who is owned. And yeah,
that's right. A slave is a piece of property that you have to take care of because you care about the work product they produce. So you have to house them and you have to feed them appropriately.
Yeah,
these people were underpaid and didn't even, were living 20 to an apartment so that they could control their costs.
Which is terrible.
Right.
So
I would argue that they might even be worse than slaves.
Yet they always have a choice. They always could say, I'm going to move cities somehow. You know, I came over here with nothing somehow, right? And let's go back to the original statement. Donald Trump did not call every immigrant a rapist and a drug addict and a gang member or whatever. He said, in fact, he said, when Mexico sends over their people, some are rapists, some are criminals, and some, this is a direct quote, by the way, and some, I assume, are good people. I have the quote right in front of me. USA Today, the most liberal person, that way liberal, more liberal than anti-Trump, pretty much. He literally says that. He says some are good people. Trump wasn't talking about the family of 6 or 3 or 2 that are coming over and trying to make a living. There are literal criminals all the time committing crimes to this day. You know where I live. It happens. You see the news. I have a friend that was killed by an illegal immigrant who was already in jail as a criminal and got let out, because that's what we do. We let them all out and we give them a court date. We don't deport them.
We also have American citizens that are criminals that commit acts of crime inside the United States.
Totally agree. So my point is,
we have police officers and politicians that also do the same thing.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But to say he said all people coming over, Trump did not include immigrant people as they're all drug addicts. He did not say they're all criminals. That was twisted by the media. He said that some come over, sure. And I know we can split hairs, but that's a one, just like the whole grab them by the you know what, right? He didn't say I force women and I grab them by their privates. He didn't say that. He said they let me grab them. And so that's a whole nother conversation.
Whoa. Yeah. Just because someone freezes when you assault them does not mean they're giving you permission. What is the appropriate response?
Now you're assuming rape.
No, I said assault. I didn't say rape. I said assault. I'll let the person that suffered it define what it is, right? But
agreed. Yeah, agreed.
But
I'm not saying he should. I'm not saying he should have done it. I'm saying that the conversation about it is skewed. right? I'm not saying that. Look, Donald Trump is
Why
not
should
his.
any man put his hands on any woman without consent?
That was my whole point. The women he said were consenting in their whole conversation.
I would have to pull it up, but my understanding
Please
of the
do.
context would
Yeah.
be he said, I grabbed them by their pussy and they let me do it.
Wow, interesting. They let me do it. They were there and throwing themselves at Donald Trump. That was the whole context of the women he was talking
Maybe.
about.
Maybe.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You were immediately going to the fact that he is abusing with these women, that he is assaulting these women. There's no conversation about, well, who are the people that Donald Trump is talking about? What immigrants? Oh, he did say some are good that are coming over. Oh, or what about the whole some are good on both sides of the aisle in North Carolina or South Carolina? Let's not even talk about that.
No, that was in Virginia and
Yeah,
Charlottesville when it was a
because he
conflict
wasn't
between
even
two
yeah,
protesters.
he wasn't even talking about the Nazis or the other people. He was talking about the people who didn't want the giant whatever the statues to come down.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care. I'm not saying that Trump is the best. I'm 100% don't agree with what he says a lot of times. I agree with a lot of things he says, but not all of them clearly. But my whole point is they rip apart everything he says and they skew it like if he's some evil dictator. When I can say Biden is, look what Biden did the other day on his Nazi style anger filled rhetoric. All MAGA Trump people are a threat to America.
Yeah,
You
it's
call it, what
a
do you call
basket
that?
of it's his basket of deplorables statement.
Sure.
I would agree that
Yeah.
the demonizing the other side doesn't really do us much good in a country that is full
Yeah,
of a
exactly.
bunch of people. But I would also question you, the idea that somehow, let's say women are throwing themselves at him, right? Does he have a responsibility to respond to that? Is that somehow licensed for him to do what he wants? Or does that mean that he's probably kind of a tool and doesn't understand the difference of what when someone's truly interested in him, when someone's trying to game him?
Well, I think neither. I think neither. I think in my what I understand in his scenario that he says is that he is taking advantage sexually of a situation where he can take advantage of the woman who is allowing herself to be in that position because he's Donald Trump and he has $6 billion in the bank, and she has some available or he has some available assets that she could ascertain, whether that's a dollar or a gold watch. I don't know, and I don't really care. But that is 100% what happens in the real world in the rich and
or
powerful.
what if you're someone of privilege and you think that people are offering those things. And so you take advantage of what you think you're being offered, and then someone objects to it, or someone freezes in the moment, and that is taken as permission because they didn't say an affirmative no. You act as if men don't attempt to coerce sexual advances on women or other men if that's their proclivity. And it would be equally wrong to say that women don't take advantage of their sexuality for their own purposes. So
Yep.
what I would argue is that Trump probably has been treated with a silver spoon his entire life. And what happens when you get away with things quite often is you think you have permission.
That's very assumptuous of you.
It's because I've known men like that.
Well, right, and I know women like that. That's the whole
Right.
thing. Like
Have you
I
ever known
see,
a man like I described? Does that person not exist? Have you never known them?
I have known few. I do believe, yes, there are plenty of bad men out there who take
So if
advantage.
you're someone that
Yes.
is used to having a lot of power and getting your way,
Hmm.
you're saying that those people are known for their restraint, or are they able to make the problem go away most of the time, and so it doesn't matter what they do?
I think it's a case by case basis. I don't believe that they all, right, or
Uh-huh.
even the majority necessarily get to the point of where they're powerful and they will expect everything to go their way 100% of the time, and they can cover it up. Of course that happens, but most people in a powerful position like that don't get there just by assuming and reckless sexual activity. Yeah, maybe some do.
Actually, I would argue that Donald Trump got where he was at because of his father's money. It's not like he earned it.
So you're saying the loan that he got from his dad, if his dad made him the billions of dollars?
I think that Trump has made a career out
Yeah.
of not really offering much value, but creating a lot of interest. He's always been a flim flam man. I'm not saying that he hasn't made millions of dollars. So did Bernie Madoff.
You're comparing Bernie Madoff, the shyster who stole from rich and poor alike.
How many people are know? How many people know that Trump doesn't pay his bills, and he often will say, "I gave you all the publicity. That's all you need."
I'm sure plenty, but so I
That's a
mean,
standard
I'm
business practice of Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying that Biden's better. I mean, most of
no,
the
but
reason why most
you're
black men are in prison right now are because laws that Biden put in place.
yes.
And the reason why you can no longer declare bankruptcy on your school loans is because of laws that Biden put in place, that most corporations are able to take more than their pound of flesh out of an individual because of the laws that Biden put in place. I'm not saying that there's no blood on
Yeah,
Biden's hands. What
but
I'm saying is that Trump is not a good person.
no, wait. So you're but you are so by saying that two things. You're saying,
Uh-huh.
and sadly I have 10 minutes. I have to go pick up my daughter down the street
That's
from
more
school.
important than this discussion, anyways.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Yeah, it's a great discussion, by the way. Thank you for asking me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what you two things. You are definitely saying that Trump is not a good person, right? And
Definitely saying that.
I am not a defender of his good character or bad character. I don't
Right.
know it that well. But here's what you're not doing. You're not criticizing the evils of Biden. I'll say that he did
Did
more
I not
harm.
just
Hold
I
on.
just
No,
cited a
no,
bunch
no.
of things of
I
Biden.
understand that. I
I
understand
mean,
that. But
Biden abandoned his family when they were in the car accident so that he could go take office and serve the country. He worked really hard under many administrations because he felt he was going to be president someday.
no, well, look, no. I'm not. So I'm not. I'm saying that my point is here is how this is a good example of how people pick on and really micro dive into Trump's life, yet they know Biden's bad. And they even claim, yeah, he's done this, he's done that. But we've kind of shrugged it off. You're like, he's not that great. He's kind of a bad president, a bad guy.
Yeah.
And then we look at Trump, he's like, oh, he's the worst of them all. Really? So he grabbed 10 women. Terrible. But has he put 5 million black people in jail for something, or minorities, or
Right, but I
whites,
was
or
able
whatever?
to establish my beef with Biden. But you're having trouble even admitting that Trump could possibly be a rapist or that Trump could possibly be responsible for assaulting women without their permission.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That's the thing. Do I admit that he is probably a rapist? No way. I don't know that.
I
Does he
mean, the
say I
women that
grab him?
have made the accusation and then he paid them off
Yeah, that's
certainly
terrible.
points to some
Terrible.
things.
Yeah, it does. I agree with you. It's terrible. If those things are true, yeah, that's still. I think I am on the side of, yeah. Donald Trump has done some very shady things, and maybe to women. My whole point is
Oh,
that
I think he's done shady things to other business people too.
oh, me too. I agree. He's done a lot of shady things, but I am still in the idea of I've forgiving Biden and hoping he does better. I do this. Nobody does that with Trump. I
no,
forget.
I gave him credit for a number of things
Yeah.
in our conversation, and I was always the person that said, you know, none of these people are good. I mean, Paul Pelosi just killed someone while drunk driving, and he faces no consequences.
Oh yeah, good on you, Trinity. I appreciate that. You're I stand corrected about what you're doing. I do agree with what you're saying that, you know, we do need it, you know, it's a good thing to pick apart both sides, or at least our leaders for sure. But
I
I
mean,
think we should
Trump
do it
did
equally.
volunteer to be in the public eye. He did
100%.
volunteer to run for office. He did criticize someone else that ran for office for spurious things.
Yeah.
So one could argue that what Trump is getting in the amount of disrespect that he's received is the amount of disrespect that he cast on others to achieve power.
Yeah. I agree with you. He put himself in this in the scope of all of
I
the other
mean,
side of the
by
aisle.
the way, if I were to ever run for office, I fully expect my entire life to be held under a microscope and questioned. I don't expect the Beto treatment of he's somehow a saint. You know,
Yeah. Oh, he's
because
awful.
we
He's
like
another
him.
guy.
Well, I don't know anything about Beto. I just
Oh,
don't. I find him kind of fake.
he's a
But
criminal.
well, I so is Bill Paxton, but he's still the
Yeah,
district attorney of Texas.
that's
I
another
would
guy that
argue that the sheriff in Uvalde is a criminal in my mind for his level of
that's a whole
cowardice.
nother conversation. I think that guy. I think I it almost feels like that there's some kind of play in the background to the way he acted in
Mm-hmm.
his own town, his own school, his own
Yeah.
people's family were in there. Oh, that ticked me off beyond when that crap came out. But
Yeah.
look, so okay, to wrap up
So
the
let's
Trump
wrap
thing,
it up. Yeah.
the reason I don't think I don't know fully about Trump is that because of, and you may be right on most of this stuff, is that people twist Donald Trump's words and assume because of their judgments, or assume because of their prejudices and many things. One of the whole people coming from Mexico, or the immigrants coming across the border, is one of the clear evidences. I think the whole grabbing the women thing, he didn't say what he said, but he can be construed. You made a valid point, and I can't deny what you say about, you know, his longstanding with power, and he's got a huge sexual history in public eye. I know, but I'm just saying, we don't do that to most people don't. You might, which is very commendable. We don't do that to the Bidens of the world, the Hillarys of the world, even though we might, that you and I might, and you know, and we know, you know, we're clearly on the
Well,
different side of
but
the aisle.
people call Hillary a murderer. I mean, there's no
They do,
evidence that she.
but not their own party, not their own supporters. I'm not saying you supported her. Sounds like you supported, you know, Ross Perot. So or whatever. But
Well,
I'm saying
I
her
did
own
vote for
supporters.
Hillary Clinton when I lived in Texas because I knew she couldn't win the state. I knew she couldn't win the election, so my vote
Yeah.
for her was not going to make an impact.
Yeah.
But that's because I
You were
have
not,
conversation with people.
you were, yeah, that, but see, here's Trinity, and this is why I came on, because you have a conversation, and we've disagreed immensely in the past, and we agree on some things, and then,
Yeah.
but you have a conversation, and you don't, and you'll shake my hand when I see you next time. You're not going to spit in my face and be like, you suck, you know?
Oh
And that's
no,
a great
because what
thing.
do I what do I care who you like? I mean, I like Elon Musk, but I also believe that he asked that flight attendant for a hand job and then was embarrassed when she said no, and so he eventually had her fired
Yeah.
because,
See,
you know, like I think that's probably really did happen because he's that kind of blunt guy. Like, I'll pay you to give me a hand job, and she didn't want to do it, and so it's awkward to be around someone like that. You know, I think that
yeah.
probably happened, but
With
I
three,
still like
yeah.
Elon Musk. You know what I mean?
Well, that just shows none of us are perfect. We do need grace. We do need mercy. All of us
Yeah,
do, right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and
And
that's the answer.
well, since you have to go pick up your daughter from school, I just want to go ahead and wrap it up. And I just want to say, first thing, you're still my friend. And thank you so much for coming on and having the back and forth with me. I think that the more that we talk, and can leave as friends, the better the world is. So,
Mm.
thank you so much for doing that. And you're still wrong, but I can still love you in your wrongness.
Well, I appreciate that, and yeah, I love you too. No matter what we disagree on, because of course when I click the hang up button, I'm right.
Yeah,
I love it. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate the conversation. Not a lot of people want to talk about this stuff in civilly, and I do. It's great. We all need to. Like you said, the more we talk about it, the more we kind of push down the hate and anger.
Well, and maybe if we keep our politicians honest about who they are and what they're about, then maybe we'll have a clearer idea of who's a good leader and who's not.
Now we just got to get the legacy media to come aboard with that.
I don't care about legacy media. I care about us.
I do. I'm with you there. Thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.